Welcome back to Un Poquito Podcast. We want to give a quick shout out to our level 4 patrons. Thank you so much for all of your support. At Fortes, Amanda Pinedo, Angel Reyes, Antonio Hernandez, Beatriz Chicana, Chris, Capital Chris, Craftiest Chavez, Daisy Lizette Flores, Fernando Arinaga, Horror Lass, Imperium Sloth, Izzy Sandoval, Javier Arinaga, Jose R. Martinez, Jose Reyes, Judith Balthazar, Luis Delgado, Lucy, Mary Rios, Maya Rooney, Mithril Maverick, Pedro, Poisonous Flower, Priscilla Gonzalez, Rafael Flores, Riley Timberman, Ron McGowan, Sandra Guerrero, Sergio Sora Gil, Sienna Quijano, your boy Harold, and Ziltino. Thank you so much for your continued support. We could not do the show without you. And now it's time to hear a word from our sponsor, Legacy Teas and Spices. Take it away, Ryan.
Legacy Teas and Spices is an online shop run by our mom, Angela Mesqua, and they have a variety of excellent hand-blended teas and spice blends. In fact, just this past weekend, my mom made chocolate mint mate for me. It was amazing. It's a great hot tea. It's cozy. It has cocoa nib in it. It has peppermint in it. And as an iced tea, it's like the perfect morning tea.
Yeah, I had some. Ryan sounded very believable, but you can believe me. It's a really good tea. It tastes like Girl Scout cookies, like those Thin Mints. So if like, it's perfect for the morning and it's perfect for the fall that's coming up.
It's excellent.
Yeah, I would definitely try it. And if you want to try it, you can head over to legacyteasandspices.com and use code UP20 for 20% off your order. Thanks, Mom.
And now to the show. Hello, I'm Ryan Reyes.
I'm Dominic Angel.
And together we're Un Poquito Podcast. Did you forget our name?
Yes, I did. Actually. We're Un Poquito Podcast, and we're happy to be here. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and follow us. Hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. Comments make you sexy. What were you going to say?
I was waiting for you to do the spiel. I thought of a tagline for us.
What?
Un Poquito, exploring Latin culture little by little.
Oh, shit! Ow!
That was the first authentic high five Dominic's ever experienced.
That was a good one. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can follow us, give us a like, rate, and review 5 stars, please.
Also, if you're listening on the audios, Dominic just shattered his hand right now.
Yeah, I'm like cradling. Jesus, we got to get through this. Follow us on social media at Un Poquito Pod. Send us an email at unpoquitopod@gmail.com. Ryan reads all of them. I read some of them.
Join the Discord.
Join our Discord. It's free.
And fun.
It's been popping off.
Yeah.
For reals. Somebody started a new D&D campaign in there. The music suggestion channel is like always popping. It's a good time. Go ahead and join for free. The links are down below. Also, if you want to support us on Patreon, you're more than welcome to. We appreciate everybody's support out here. Thank you so much for being here. And now it's time to get into it. It's our first month.
Yeah.
Episode 5. I'm going to keep interrupting you. What?
Today's episode... I start talking
I'm still reeling from like my hand. My hand is red.
It's like sizzling.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We just wanted to do a check-in because like we made it through our first month. It's been a bumpy road. We're here now. We have some exciting things. Oh, that's what we had to say. I want to give it a special shout out to our good friend, Josh Villa, who's going to be our editor now. So we're going to get some extra help on the show to help make sure that we get our quality content out every single time when it's supposed to come out, so that you guys can enjoy the show. This episode is kind of just, it's going to be a little bit more casual.
Bit of a check-in. I did want to talk about, because last week was Labor Day.
Right.
And it got me to thinking of like the kind of hustle culture that American Latinos have. That I don't think, people sometimes take for granted. Like, last year on our old podcast, we talked about the struggles of street vendors and all the shit they have to go through with different permits. You need a different permit you need a permit for a specific county, but you also need individual permits for each city you go through. It's ridiculous. And then people are just mistreating them for no reason.
Yeah, it's just making things even harder than they need to be.
I mean, it feels like, it just feels unnecessarily dismissive. Like, not just vendors in general, but the different things you see Latinos doing for to make a hustle, to like make a living. And a lot of it has to do with, that there's a large group that is undeniably like undocumented, so they can't get normal work through normal means. So they do their best to contribute to society, and people shit at them for it. And I never understood that. Specifically, I want to say one thing that I've recently come to acknowledge is like how much work goes into like elote cards. Like they have to wake up early in the morning, shuck a bunch of corn, steam that corn, and then just like start walking the streets of their neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, cooking corn is a fucking process. Like,
yeah, like we, in their last corn episode, we talked about us trying it for a band camp thing. It was fucking exhausting and gross.
Yeah,
I'd do it again.
Yeah, it's just like the thing is that all of these things, it's honest work, it's respectable work, and it does feel like people get targeted. Whether it's through permits or whether it's like. These people are putting themselves at risk by having a business that's on the street. They're not protected. They can't leave their carts.
Yeah.
They get robbed or attacked all the time.
Yeah.
Vandalized. And it's fucking rough,
Yeah, and it's like, I feel like the reaction to this specific kind of hustle has created an unintentional, like, kind of feeling towards hustle culture in general. Like, you even see videos of people calling the cops on like black kids and Mexicans selling lemonade.
Yeah, it's so crazy because it's like I know it's not the same thing, but if you draw it back to like, America, the United States is a capitalist country. And so it's all about, having a successful business and following your dream and having this ambition to be, have this large enterprise, and you're pushed, I wouldn't even say encouraged, you're pushed to like do something major.
Yeah.
And like have a business. It's so crazy that they tell everybody that everybody should start a business. Yeah. That is fucking wild to me. Like, you need employees, like, unless you're working it by yourself. But anyway, I digress. I just mean, like, you were fed this thing that's like, you have to work hard, rise to the top, start your own business, work for a multi-billion-dollar company, whatever it takes. Like, they want you to exist inside this thing. But when they see people actually doing that, but I don't know if it's because it doesn't line up with the way that they want them to do it, or if it's because, they're black and brown people, that it's like, oh no, but not you. It's either not you or not that way.
Yeah. And it's also like, I think that's part of why it's so frustrating when like vendor foods start becoming like artisanal, like in restaurant type things, because that's in my opinion, that's why people like not wanting to deal with the fact that even though they absolutely love what we're creating, they don't want us there.
Yeah, because
like having this at a restaurant gives you an excuse to not have to go to the vendor that you see every day.
I didn't think about that, but that's a pretty harsh way of talking about it. But it is. I mean, yeah, it's like a thing where they just want to consume, they don't want to support, and it's like the whole what's it, cowboy salad or cowboy, the corn salad.
Yeah, that shit was annoying. That's just a elote in a cup.
Esquite, right? And so it's like, it's weird because it's still happening that people act like, oh, I discovered this thing, the whole spa water thing, where it's like you have people making aguas frescas, like selling that all the time. It's like you don't want to buy from them. Yeah. But that's a great idea. Let me
borrow.
Repackage this thing as its own thing that I came up with.
Yeah, it's like, it's literally, this is like where we bring up the whole thing about the difference between appropriation and appreciation. Is like, what makes it appropriation is they don't respect where it came from. They don't acknowledge where it came from. They're doing it for themselves. Like, the lady with the spa water thought she created a life hack and in no way acknowledged what aqua fresca was until all like Mexicans got mad at her.
I don't know. This is going into its own thing, but it's like hustle culture. I do not like hustle culture, and I don't like that people I don't like the promotion of hustle culture. I don't think that people should not work hard. People should work hard and like believe in themselves and like take care of themselves. And getting into a conversation about what should be earned and what should be given, or what not should be, or what should be earned and what should be expected. You know, like
Yeah.
no people.
Like,
There should not exist. Like people, homelessness should not exist. Hunger should not exist. Like these are all things that not that we shouldn't work for them,
yeah.
because like, you know, if what I mean by that is if you go back to like when we are tribe, like living in small tribal communities, you do have to work for your shelter and you do have to work for your food.
Yeah.
But it's an expectation that everybody contributes to society, and that, you know, these things, nobody's charging rent, you know, in these communities. It's like you pull your weight.
Yeah.
And it just seems like people are kept out of employment opportunities. People are kept out of housing opportunities, out of just basic necessities that we should have as humans. And that's the thing too, is that what sucks is like, oh, well, you don't contribute anything, so we're not going to give you housing. Which is like, that could be the thing that helps them have major
Exactly.
How many people are out there that could be the person that are like making major innovations in all kinds of fields, but because they're born into a situation, or because they were down on their luck, or because they're facing health issues, or whatever the case is, you know, they're forced into a position where like they're struggling just to survive, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's literally like, even just not the small group, but like siphoning it specifically to like people of color with disability. It's there's so much examples that I've come across of people who, like, because of the disability, it's hard for them to find work, and it's hard for them to keep that work because they're judged on their workflow. When they're very clearly limited by their disability. And so like there's these long periods where they're on unemployment or they're on disability, and people judge them for that. And it's like, well, so give me a job. It's like, and let me keep that job, and like understand that I'm literally doing the maximum that I can to provide for society. And it is providing, you know, they're doing work. Just because it's not as much as someone else does not mean that it's not enough.
Yeah, it's also hard to be on to get disability benefits, and they make it hard for you where like they give you to qualify for disability benefits, you cannot own like material possessions worth more than $2,000 cumulatively. That means that most people that are on disability benefits, they have to be one poor. Thing. They have to be poor.
Yeah.
You know, because they're not afforded like, okay, this is going to help me get to the next thing.
Yeah.
But it's also like benefits come with, you know, doctors, you know, in health insurance that they need. And so what ends up happening is that they have insurance, and then they use those benefits to just pay for the medication. And like they can own one thing. Like some people have a car, some people have a laptop.
Yeah.
Like
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's also just like, not even that, like expanding more upon like these systems that are in place are designed specifically to keep people out. And that's the one thing that I feel like a lot of people that were born here that don't have to deal with that don't acknowledge. And it's so frustrating to see, like, you know, because we were born here, we haven't had to see that, but we haven't had to face that on a personal level, but we do see that. Like, there's a mutual of ours, I forget the name, but he posted a video, and he was just like, he didn't, I think, say anything in the video, but he was playing an audio in response to a comment. He's an undocumented immigrant, and someone commented, well, you have an American education and you're bilingual. Why couldn't you go back and just go through the proper channels? And it's like, because the proper channels don't actually exist. They're specifically designed to keep people out. You do not understand how difficult it is to go through the quote proper channels.
Well, that was the thing too. Is like what a lot of people don't understand is like the fact that you're here undocumented, and if you try to go back and do it the right way, is a knock against you because you'll have an infraction
Yeah.
on your record of doing it quote unquote the wrong way.
It's also like, I haven't checked recently, so I can't quote the specific numbers, but a large number, like something, if I'm making a guesstimate based on what I remember, like more than half of all quote unquote illegal immigrants in the US are actively pursuing citizenship. They're just not legal until that's qualified. And it takes like years. There's stories we've heard of, even like the person we had when we were on the Old Child City mentioned someone who waited for like 40 years to get their green card.
Yeah.
Like it's not their fault. They are actively trying as hard as they can to get what they're supposed to get. And we have a system in place that's making it difficult on purpose.
Yeah. So I don't know. I want to know, like, what do you think, like, where does a strong work ethic, I want to say this the right way. Are you going to go ahead and drink? Where do you think the line is between having a strong work ethic and then falling victim to hustle culture?
I mean, I think it's a very thin line. I think when the hard work is at the detriment to your personal well-being, that's like the line that's like, that's something that I think I talked about in live a couple weeks ago, but we didn't really discuss here about quiet quitting. Mm-hmm. I think we might have discussed it on a Patreon, but just to recap the misconceptions of quiet quitting. People think that it's the mentality that you want to do the bare minimum until you get paid more. And that's not 100% understanding it. First of all, it's not a mentality you go into a job with, but it's a mentality that's supposed to create the idea that you're supposed to know your own worth, that regardless of how a capitalist system works, you still have value and worth that is, if it's not being acknowledged or met, it's not your obligation to exceed that. To kind of explain, quiet quitting is not about doing less than 100%. It's just specifically not doing more than 100%. And I think that's an important value, that it's honestly hard for people who have to grind and hustle to understand or acknowledge, because they literally have to do this. This is the only way they can make the means to live comfortably as possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's talked about a lot, but it's like there's these unknowable things at the top, right?
Yeah.
But what we can see is who's our peer, and so what a lot of people choose to be upset at are their peers behaving differently when they have to function a certain way.
Yeah, and it's also like often seen as opportunity. Like when you're in a survivalist mentality where you have to take any opportunity that will advance your placement in your own life, it clouds how you see opportunity. Like you see someone who is trying to hold out for a raise or refusing to do extra work because they're not getting what they deserve. So the mentality might be to take on that extra work for yourself. Even if you don't have that much room to expand that much, you will do it because it means that you make more money. It means that you have more opportunity to advance yourself, even if you physically can't.
The thing that always gets me is that you do things, we were fed this promise that you work hard, you go above and beyond, you don't take sick days, you don't take vacation days, you work extra hours, whatever it takes to get the job done. I've done that before, and it's not pretty. And the thing is, we're told that, it's going to pay off for us later. That there's some like gift basket that's like waiting for us at an indeterminate amount of time. Yeah. And the thing is like you're living right now. Like you should be enjoying your life where you're at right now. That's not to say that you shouldn't work hard and that you shouldn't strive for bigger things, that you shouldn't strive to excel. But it's like understanding that you should enjoy yourself now and be happy, because it's so cliches. It's so funny that all of these the whole thing about quiet quitting and like lazy people, this stuff has always existed. I mean, how many times when I was a kid, when you were kids, do you see on TV shows, on movies and books where they talk that saying of like, when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be like, I wish I spent more time at the office.
Yeah.
That's an idea that has been around since forever,
Yeah, I mean, like, even there was this funny example on TikTok that I think initially started this conversation for me was that dude, what's his name? Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. I forget his real name. He posted a TikTok where he was literally like, if you're a quiet quitter, you're a loser. Stop it. And I had commented, so pay your employees more. And this guy like got into me about the whole conversation about, well, if they don't want to do the work, then they shouldn't deserve the thing. It's like, well, that's the point. They are doing the work. They're not getting reciprocated. But then someone else reminded me of a quote from the show of a story he told, Mr. Wonderful told, where he got a job at like a parlor or like a restaurant, and he was a busboy, and they asked him to scrape gum off the bottom of the table. And he was like, no, you hired me to do dishes and wait tables. You did not hire me to scrape gum. I am, he was like, I'm above that. I don't need to do that. That doesn't define my hard work. And he told that story about him not taking gumption or like strife from anybody and being his own man. And it's like, that's the point of quiet quitting, is understanding your own worth. And the fact that you as a corporate, like conglomerate owner can't understand that is so annoying.
I will always say the thing that frustrates me the most is like, standing up for yourself is seen as weakness. It's like your value is placed in the amount of oppression that you're able to handle.
Yeah.
Like the amount of like people's pride is in how much about how much ability they have to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
It's beyond me.
Yeah, it's like, it's the common thing. It's even a generational thing where it's like, when someone had to fight for something and they see someone younger than them benefiting from the work that they went through, they get mad at that. And that doesn't make sense to me. It's like you fought to make things easier intentionally, but because they're not struggling like you did, they don't deserve it. Like, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, part of me thinks there's just something about human psychology that is like, there's the amount of relief you get when you become out of struggle makes the struggle worth it.
Yeah.
And so they think that because of that, you have to earn that relief. But it's like, I mean, here's the thing too, is that obviously, there shouldn't be, I believe there shouldn't be these levels of disparities between like people's lifestyles.
Yeah.
Like there shouldn't be a bunch of billionaires and like so many homeless people, if you have $1 billion, money's fucking made up in the first place. All of this stuff does not mean anything. And so, yeah, give up a little bit. If you give up a little bit and you're still going to have the most, like what is the fucking problem? But here's I have the reason why I don't like hustle culture. I believe that people should, this is in terms of so there's two different things. There's people that are moving up at companies, and then there's people that are doing something on their own, that are starting their own business, that are trying to become an artist, a musician, whatever it is. And you hear all these stories about like, you can't have days off. The people that succeed they don't take breaks. They keep pushing it. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to do. There's some truth to that. You do have to work hard to promote yourself and to succeed. And, you do have to have that extra grit to like be able to power through hardship. I get that. But the thing is that it's just I don't want this to sound like defeatist mentality, but you have to understand that it might not happen. Yeah. And the people will tell you, you have to believe that it's going to happen. and don't be that person because it will happen for you. There's so many people that die because they knew without a doubt that they were going to be that successful person.
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is like, I know I said that people die from it, but like literally, like I have personal experience with that kind of mentality. You know, I don't like this idea. Like, we've been given a checkbox of like what makes a successful person. Of like, you work hard, you move up in a company, you get paid well, you buy a house, you know, invest, and you do all this stuff, and like you do whatever it takes to make it happen. When I was 24 years old,
Right.
you know, I bought a house that I, you know, could not afford. I bought a house that was 2/3 of my income. But the thing is like, everybody around me is telling me, good job, you're fucking crushing it. I can't believe, you know, you bought a house. That's amazing. You know, and everybody's like, and I'm saying like, yeah, it's expensive. It's hard. It's like, I couldn't renovate it. I couldn't fix it up. But the fact that I owned the house was like, people were like, hang on to that. Don't ever let it go. Right. So now I have a house that I can't afford. You know, I'm 24 years old and I'm working hard at this job. I became, you know, a manager at this job. I'm getting paid well, but it's not enough. So now I have to work more hours, do what I can to make more money. And at a certain point, this wasn't year round, but at a certain point, I was working 100 hours a week at this job. I was literally living at work.
Yeah.
I would live at work so that I didn't have to pay for gas to travel to and from my house. I didn't have to pay for electricity. I didn't have to pay for water. I would pack a duffel bag. With clothes and then take that to work and then stay there for 6 days. And I would use like alcohol wipes to clean myself. I would like take like showers in the sink and stuff, wash my hair out.
Right.
And that's what I did for months so that I could afford to do this. And on top of that, you know, I had to take a step away from comedy, which is what I really wanted to do at the time. But I told myself, I'm doing this because I'm investing in myself. This is a good investment. I'm going to have this house and it's going to pay off later. I had to take a break away from what I really wanted to be doing. And on top of that, I developed a drug habit to like get through I was working for 100 hours. There's multiple times where it happened where I worked from Friday night until Monday morning without stopping.
Yeah.
Like I was just on Adderall the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a common thing with a lot of like overnight jobs. There's a huge pandemic of like, you know, pep pills are just Adderall. They're just like another name for attention pills that you see on the road.
Pills,
yeah.
Whatever it is. And it's the thing of like,
it's the number one thing for warehouse workers and truck drivers.
That I started doing meth on top of doing Adderall. Like I had to give up on my dreams because I was like, I'm gonna get back to that later. But I was literally doing drugs so that I could stay at work and make more money and pay off this house.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you know, like it just was not healthy. I lost like 50 pounds, but the whole time people were telling me like, such a good job, like you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You're hanging on to this house you're setting yourself up for your future. And coming out of it, you know, I still feel that like my brain doesn't work the same, that my joke writing, that my skills in comedy have taken a hit. My confidence certainly took a hit.
Yeah.
You know, my performance style, like I was doing so well up until I stopped doing comedy. Like I decided to take a break. and like trying to go back to it. And now, you know, I'm thankful for where I'm at now. I've gone through a lot since then and like worked on myself and done things to be better. But it was like what upsets me about it is like anybody could say like, yeah, you made a young decision. How many people prey on people in the early 20s to get loans for college, for housing, for whatever it is, for cars? They take advantage of people that are young so that they can make some money now. And then, like, I'm very fortunate that I was able to just, like, when I decided to stop taking drugs, I'm very lucky that I have been able to stop.
Yeah, and that's honestly like a thing people don't know about is honestly, I'll admit that I learned this, I believe, from Adam Ruins Everything. But a very like 60% of narcotic users use it to function in their daily life. It's like parents who want to function after having like their fourth kid and they're just trying to struggle. At home parents and then workforce, people, truck drivers, warehouse workers, like it's people who are literally just trying to function and stay awake because their average sleep time is like 4 hours a night. Yeah. And I don't use anything besides like marijuana specifically because I feel like there's too much of a risk there. But even like as someone, you know, I have insomnia, I average maybe 3 hours a night just naturally.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a detriment to like physical health.
Yeah. I mean, coming out of it, the number one thing that I've learned is take care of yourself and enjoy where you're at. Like, enjoy the things that you have in life and the thing that is difficult is that it's okay to want to have goals and to want to achieve things, but there's an issue with this hustle culture, this mentality of being the number one and then having to fight to stay at the top. Is, you know, there's two possible outcomes of you putting in all this time and energy to achieve this thing, right?
Yeah.
The two possible outcomes are, one, you're not going to achieve it, and you're going to miss out on so much happiness because you're focused on achieving that one goal that you're missing everything else that's going on in your life. And you're constantly telling yourself that is the thing that's going to make you happy. The other thing that happens is you do achieve it. And then what?
Yeah.
Okay, I worked hard and I did the thing and now I'm proud of myself. And then what? So then you create another goal.
Yeah.
And then maybe you hit that, maybe you don't. Then you create another goal and you're constantly moving the goalposts for yourself and constantly playing catch up with yourself. And it just, I don't know. Obviously, there are things about being successful and having a lot of resources.
Well, I think, sorry to cut you off, but just because I've also, you know, as someone who wants to do something like comedy and be like a professional media persona, I've also had like experience with that mentality. And I don't know if it's because I'm autistic and it allows me to think objectively sometimes, but I think the misconception people have is that it's going to feel different. It's like, no, you are always going to feel exactly how you feel because that's just what existing is. Like, there's no specific internal feeling. You know, people have like points of euphoria where like, oh, I've made it. I'm like, yeah, but then you continue to work and then you continue to like, you know, you have highs and lows. Like, fucking, even someone like, I don't know, I'm just like pulling out of my butt, but like Eddie Murphy, you know what I mean? I think he's had talked about moments where he was like, this is where I know I've made it. And then a couple years later, something happens that's a dip for him. Like, he was the biggest thing on SNL and then he got fired. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like, it's never going to feel, you as a person are never going to feel different just because you've earned this thing.
Yeah, these things just happen, you know, and it's become a thing of like, you know, it's a joke when people hang on to like the one thing, like Al Bundy, like in Married with Children. Like that's the joke, is that he is living, he's still replaying his high school dreams.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing that he could achieve, and he's living off of that. How annoying do we find people that always talk about how many, you know, Oscars they have, or like how how gauche is it to constantly talk about those things? It's cool to do well, and it's cool to be recognized for your art and your work and your success. Like that, all that stuff is cool. When you build your personality around that, you know, it's off-putting. Pudding. Anyway,
there should be a brand that's called off-putting.
Yeah,
it's like weird, it's like cabbage flavor. No, yeah. I mean, not to make it more about comedy. I know we've been doing it like an hour, I think. But as comedians, we see that a lot in people that are like coming into comedy, and it's not a thing. I've come into the mentality more lately that we shouldn't be trying to dissuade anyone from doing comedy, but I do also I'm not weary of these people, but I'm more concerned for these people when they have the mentality of just being famous. Like when you see, you know, people that got famous off of Vine or off TikTok, suddenly they want to use their following to put on a show for themselves because they think they'll be good at comedy. And it's like, not that they won't be, they have a very funny personality, they have a very funny mentality, but it's like when you don't understand, I think that's the difference between a desire to be quote unquote successful and his desire to work hard for something you want to achieve.
That's the thing. Like, I don't know this much about him. I don't watch like his interviews. I've seen a handful of his videos and I see clips, but Mr. Beast is somebody that like, I see that there's something in him that he wants to achieve a certain height.
Yeah.
But the thing that I get from him is the excitement of like, I saw he did a clip of an interview he did with Joe Rogan,
right,
where he talks about how he has channels that are in different languages.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I'm reaching this many more people. Like, but it's like the thing of, I don't know where, maybe I'm giving this guy a break for no reason, but it's like, it's the thing of like that excitement of like figuring a puzzle out that you could see with him, and that it's not about being the best or being this level or like being considered or seen as this kind of person. It's like it's kind of like figuring out how to unlock this new thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. And the like even his channel, it's like the games that they do and like giving people money or like spending all this stuff, like it's crazy. Like, you know, it's all for views, it's all for content, but it also feels like, isn't it cool? Like, isn't it cool that I'm able to do? Aren't we cool? You were thinking that, huh? Isn't it cool that we're able to do these things?
Yeah,
you know,
I mean,
like instead of there is a bit of like not overzealousness, but like what is it called? Frivolous spending. You know, when they make like candy factory or whatever, like when they do these things because they're trying to get more money. But it's also just like, instead of just like hoarding a ton of money, it's like giving people opportunities to have fun and to make money. Like,
yeah, and it's like there's pros and cons about it, and you know, that's also a thing I think that a lot of like older generations have had to kind of come to terms with about media jobs, like social media jobs, is like there's still work being put into them. And I don't think anyone should ever disregard that. Like, you're still building an entity, you're building a brand, but there's also this weird expectation that a lot of people have when that's their path of like, okay, now I'm famous, so things will be easy. And it's like I don't know. I don't have any professional like aversion to this person, but I also don't like them as a person. But like Trisha Paytas is a good example of that.
Oh yeah, she's been around since I was in high school. Like,
Yeah, and it's like she started, I think, with America's Got Talent, and then she went viral because she didn't think dogs have brains.
It's just somebody who just wanted to be famous and like wanted to be recognized.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't think that she puts zero work into or zero effort into what she's built, but it's also like what she's building is awkward and it's uncomfortable. And I feel like the reason people who are trying to be into her can't understand why it feels awkward is because she is imitating hard work. Like she is imitating strife and struggle for the sake of being relevant. Literally over the past 5 years, she's identified as a Hebrew, as pagan, as gender non-binary, as someone with a DID system. She's identified as several kinds of queer, like LGBTQ member, and she keeps building on it. And if you question her on it years later, she'll still double down on it, but she seems to forget that she admitted that or claimed that even months after she did so. There's literally maybe 6 months between her claiming that she was Hebrew now and her claiming she was pagan.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I mean, it just is a thing that, like I said, I don't want this whole thing to just be negative. I'm somebody that I get joy out of working hard. I think it's a regular human thing to get what is it, not pleasure, but
it feels
to feel pride, to feel good about accomplishing something that was difficult.
Yeah, earning something, putting the work into achieving something is worthwhile. I think what we're trying to say is there's a distinction between the drive to do something and having to do as much as possible all the time for everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's the difference between having a strong work ethic and being part of hustle culture. I believe that hustle culture is part of a system.
Yeah.
Having a strong work ethic and wanting to achieve things and working hard to figure it out and do things that are true to you, that's all great stuff. I'm not going to lie and say that I don't want this podcast to be successful.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend that I don't want to be a working comedian that performs for, a lot of people.
Yeah. It's even having this as a path that we've chosen has been hard to explain to people who don't take this path. I work for the same job that you did. And I remember constantly being told I wish you would put as much energy that you put into achieving comedy that you do in your general work. And for me, I was showing up on time, leaving at you know what I mean? I was working 8 hours.
Doing the job.
I was working 8 hours and I was doing the job and I was doing it as successfully as I possibly could as an individual. And I just wasn't staying over weekends or handling jobs that weren't part of my criteria.
Yeah. And it's well, yeah.
And it's I don't
want to do this.
I need this job, but this is not what I want to do. Yeah. And the work that I was putting into comedy at the time was paying off. People were getting to know me. I was growing without that effort I'd put into comedy, I don't think I'd have the following I'd have on TikTok.
Yeah. My whole thing is just, take care of yourself and again, don't hurt yourself over you don't it's just you have to find happiness in yourself and be okay with who you are and where you're at, because there is a lot of joy to find, in all facets of life. I say this, I have to recognize that, there are people that are suffering that I don't have to experience, homelessness. I don't experience hunger. I don't experience violence. So take things that I say with a grain of salt. But when you're comparing, being somebody that you're trying to achieve billionaire status, versus trying to enjoy your life.
Yeah, there's a difference between having to survive and just wanting to exist.
Yeah. This is also a thing to me that this is a very silly thing, but whenever I get stressed out about I'm not doing enough, this might be extreme for some people, but like a gentle reminder that I give myself is the sun is going to explode. You know what I mean? It's extreme, but it's like all of this stuff is temporary, like everything fades.
Yeah. Like the pyramids. You know what I mean? Like that land wasn't always desert. The pyramids weren't always like sandy stone. They were glossed like ceramic, like limestone. A lot of people believe they were made from limestone. So they were actually shiny and you could see them from space. And it was designed that way to be like an homage to the person that was buried in there, and that shit like turned to dust, literally.
Right. So it's just like, it's a scary thought for some people. It's stuff that I like grapple with, from time to time, but it is very much just like, hey, I don't know what's going on here, and life is so precious. The thing that makes life precious is that it's not.
Yeah.
We know that it isn't.
That's the one thing that, like, from a philosophical standpoint, I like about Ricky Gervais when he's questioned about his atheism is like, well, I forget how he said it in an interview, but someone was like, well, what keeps you from doing bad things? He's like, I'm a good person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like this is the main thing and we should be focused more on this than anything else.
Yeah, because you don't know. I mean, like, this is going into a whole different conversation, but I do feel like, we're here to learn things. I do believe in, I'm spiritual, and I do believe in, reincarnation and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And multiple universes or dimensions or whatever it is. It just like, we just don't know. The only thing that we have to be able to accept is that we don't know. But it's like, if I'm just so unsure, this could be it, right? And it's like, do I want to spend my time like trying to make myself sick to achieve something? And it's like, that could be the thing that you want. You're going to be a star. You know that you're going to be super successful, super rich or whatever. And like, that's what you work towards. But you have to also like, it's not that I'm not saying don't try to do those things.
Yeah.
But don't put obstacles in front of your own happiness. My whole thing is like, if you do get joy out of that hustle and that working hard and all that stuff, like if that's your joy, I get it. Like, go for it, push those things. I just want to like put it out there, like little whispers in people's ears of just like, just so like your life, you are enough. Like your life is enough. And there is happiness to be seen around you.
Yeah, like if you're not enjoying any of it, then it's not worth it. Like even with comedy, there's a lot of tough drops in comedy. There was like a whole year when I didn't get any work, and I was depressed the whole time. I was going to mics. I was like, I would say like at this time I was stagnating. I had been working on the same jokes for like 3 or 4 years. I hadn't written anything new. And I wasn't getting picked up. I don't remember what was happening at the time, but I was going through something where I wasn't able to go to anything for anyone else for a long time. So people were forgetting who I was. And it was tough and it was hard. But I still can't imagine not wanting to do this. Like, that's the thing about me doing comedy is I'm doing it for myself first.
Yeah, I do comedy because I enjoy doing comedy. And I think it would be cool to perform comedy at the Staples Center.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to perform comedy at, the Comedy Store. But also I just enjoy doing comedy and I want to be good at it. I want to make myself laugh.
Yeah.
When I did the joke about the chicken soup for the Kia Soul, like when I came up with that, which also the story happened. Like that's a true
it was real.
Story. But the punchline was chicken soup for the Kia Soul, and literally, like when I thought of that, I repeated it in my head 3 times, and I laughed 3 times because I was like, "This is fucking hilarious,"
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff like I talk about the magic food pocket,
Yeah.
I don't do that for anyone else. I think it's funny. And when someone else notices and laughs, that makes me feel better, but I'm doing it for me. I also wanted to talk about like what was a fun. This is more, we can prompt this for the, if you've made it this far and you're on the YouTube or the Apple, you can leave this as a comment. Like what's a fun sort of thing you did as a hustle as a kid? Like I knew kids that their family sold candy, there's yard sales. What's a thing that's part of hustle culture that you remember fondly? Like swap meets. I love swap meets. I did glass bottles. This wasn't like I was a kid. I was like 19 to 21, so I was a kid, but someone got me an etch pen. And I just started drawing on glass and I was good. I'm good at drawing. And so I started to sell that. I maybe sold like 5, but it was a fun moment for me where I created something and other people liked it. Like that validation feels good. And so that was like a fun moment for me.
You're good at it. You should do it again. My thing is photography right now. Like that's what it, right now it's like that's kind of my extra thing that I do, and I love taking pictures. I love editing. I love like finishing an image and making it look like somebody told me. Actually, one of the coolest things, and I'll give him credit for, like I'll use his name because it was a very kind thing that he said, was Gerardo. After the first time that I did photos for Chatterbox, I sent them out and I showed them to Gerardo, and he was like, dude, this is awesome. Like, he's like, I've never seen anyone like pictures that look like this. Like, this is he said, this looks like something that no one else is doing.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, holy shit. I mean, that was cool because it did feel unique to myself, and like, it felt good. You know, that was one of the coolest things anyone's ever said about like something that I was doing. Cause I always feel like my work, my editing, my style is very basic. I've described my like the way that I make movies and the way that I edit feels very like I feel like I'm like Astro Boy. You know, like Astro Boy is very like, he's the hero, he's the protagonist, but his like he has a very basic design. It's very simple design, and his moves are very simple. But then, like, he always fights these like crazy villains that are like very intricate and look really cool and have like these crazy special moves. It's like that's how I feel about like my work, is that like it's all very simple and basic.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, not to bring it back, that reminded me of like my first couple of years doing comedy. Of like, there were a lot of specifically reminded me the first time I did an open mic. It was the Ice House. And the only jokes I had were the ones I wrote for your birthday.
Right.
And so they were like very basic compared to how they are now. Honestly, they were like shitty versions of the original jokes. Right. But I did this set, and this is literally the first time I ever did comedy. And so many people came up to me afterward and said, like, you're really funny. How long have you been doing it? I'm like, today.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all good stuff. So that's I guess we'll end it on that. Like, what is something you do? Not necessarily a hustle, but like, what's
something that you've achieved that you feel good about?
Yeah, sing your own praises. Cool. I think we'll probably like chill out for like 26. Oh wait. Oh my God. I keep forgetting to do. I'm gonna tell the story.
Right.
Because we're doing Don't Fly.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna tell a story so that I can make a clip, and then it'll be fucking ours.
We should do like a hard cut. Like, I remembered.
Yeah, we'll do a cut. This is the story. So when I was younger, when I was a kid, my brother Anthony and I used to fight all the time. We were just like always constantly yelling at each other and like getting into fist fights. And one day we were outside on the front porch, and my grandpa Lalo, he's from Mexico, and at the time he didn't speak English very well, so he was all getting things confused. He comes out and sees us fighting. He meant to say, "Don't fight." But what happens is he comes out, sees us, and goes, "Hey, don't fly." And so my brother and I, like, we stopped what we were doing and we looked at each other. We looked at him. We looked back at each other, and the three of us started laughing. I feel bad because like he was embarrassed because he said something wrong, but it's become a thing like through over the years. Like we all remember that story, and now whenever we see each other at like holidays or like when we're visiting and when we're getting ready to leave, instead of saying goodbye, we say "Don't fly." So that's the story, and that's why when we finish, we like to extend a hand to everybody and say,
Don't fly.